Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. We have had some requests for information on off-body carry. That's become a thing, especially now with everybody getting into it, a lot of people actually getting into it for the first time. So we've got a few things here that are kind of truly off-body. This is basically it looks like an attaché case. It's got a handle on the top of it. And if you were carrying this, nobody would even think that there's a gun in it, but it's truly off-body. The only connection to your body is this handle. And then maybe some things that you might consider alternative carry, like these sneaky Peats. They clip to your belt, so it's kind of like an outside the waistband, but it's concealed outside the waistband. There's a pistol in there. And then a few other things. The biggest thing to consider with off-body carry or any of these alternative carry methods is they're not going to be as reliable, they're not going to be as fast, and they're not going to be as streamlined as the common on-body carry, the typical method of carry. Inside the waistband in a properly positioned holster with the right cant, you're going to get to it quickly and smoothly and reliably. Even pocket carry or wherever it is that you would conventionally carry. But a lot of times that's just not an option. You may not wear the types of clothes that allows you to attach a weapon to your clothing. If you're wearing anything other than pants with a belt, a lot of your options are limited. This gives you the ability to carry a gun, have it accessible to you, without having to actually have it attached. Now, what you would do with this is you might potentially, if I find the right zipper, you might potentially have it partially zipped, or you'd unzip it partially, so you're carrying it, you unzip it partially, and then you could just reach in there and you can pull the gun out. You'll notice that was a little cumbersome. I didn't have the thing turned. That would have me to make sure to turn it that way so that I could get a firing grip. So let's do that again. And that's one thing that is going to be important. Whatever you pick, by the way, every gun that we're going to touch today has been double checked by both Hammer and I. So rather than boring you with checking every single gun as I touch it, I'm going to just say that we've cleared everything that you're going to see today. Some of these can be cumbersome to zip up. Many of them are designed to be fairly easy to unzip. So if I unzip to the top of it, I could reach in, I could pull the pistol out into a firing grip. Now, is that going to be as good as inside the waistband? Not really. This thing is dangling by a strap from my body. You'll notice it's going to hang this way, so the gun is going to be horizontal. So there's nothing about this that's going to be as easy as having it, if I put the gun in it, unzip it to put the gun away. There's nothing about this that's going to be as easy as inside the waistband. But before you write off a solution like this, you're looking at a solution like this because that inside the waistband is not an option right now. So things like this can actually work quite well. A few things that you'd want to make sure of. How securely the option you chose holds the weapon. This one's pretty decent, even though it's possible it could wiggle backwards, but the size of the case and the size of the gun will kind of limit that. But this one has a major drawback, and that major drawback is I can access the trigger. So when I reach in there to get it, there's nothing to stop that. So the type of gun that I would put in this is something that has a thumb safety, that I can have in the safe position, and something potentially that is maybe not chambered. So you start to say that I can't just put a Glock in here, chambered, hot, and ready to go. Because if I reach in there in a hurry under stress and I'm trying to find the grip, which is all going to be happening blind, because you imagine, this is happening like this, then I could snag the trigger and have an unintended discharge. So all of these different off-body or alternative carries have some kind of drawback. Another option with this would be to get a holster that covers the trigger group and modify this, or otherwise get it where the holster is clipped in here, so it's in some sort of a holster. One of the holsters that often works well are these DeSantis's. They're designed to have a little back plate on them that kind of obscures the shape of the gun. And these are used for pocket inside the waistband, but these also can work quite well in alternative holster scenarios. In a purse, if you can get this to stand upright in a pouch in a purse, it denies access to the trigger, it retains the gun, and it's got this sticky kind of material, kind of grippy material, that's going to keep the holster from wanting to move around a lot. The other thing that's very important if you're going to do any kind of alternative carry is to ensure, just like you would if you're carrying in the pocket, then nothing gets down in the trigger. Pens, keys, pencils, stuff like that. So you want to have a dedicated pocket in whatever it is you put the gun in to hold the gun in its holster. So for example, this, it's got all these little loops and hoops and stuff like that. I wouldn't load this thing up with pens and pencils and office supplies and stuff like that, because they'd have the opportunity to get into the trigger and or just simply interfere with getting the gun out. These sneaky Peats, which are these things, are meant to look like a PDA case. They've got some that are meant to look like a medical pack. You know, it's become quite common for people with different diabetes and different medical conditions to carry some sort of a pack. And what these are meant to do is carry the gun outside the waistband with some sort of belt clip, belt loop solution, but have it be obscured and not look like a gun, yet be as readily available as if it were in an outside the waistband holster. So they're more discreet, but they are technically on your body. And the way you would grip these, the way you pull the gun in one of these, it's on your belt, and you bring your thumb up under, and as you're coming up, you're grabbing the grip and you're bringing the gun out. And you can do that quite smoothly, and one thing about it is it gets a place for your finger to go as you're doing it. So I'm coming up like this, my thumb may drop down in there, but it can't do anything. Thumb comes across it, fingers go in, and I'm moving to a firing grip as I'm pulling it out. But you'll see, until I actually retrieve the gun, so when I'm in that fumble for the grip phase, when I'm trying to get a hold of the grip, whichever finger it is I'm doing it with, because I've flipped this up and I'm coming along, I can't get to the trigger until I've actually started to withdraw. So the likelihood of an ND in this point is very, very slim, especially because I can have this finger up along here and it's just going to natively land on the slide of the gun. Obviously, anything like this, and it doesn't matter what I show you today, practice with it, with an unloaded gun, of course. Practice with it till you're smooth with it. Get it to the point you can draw from this as seamlessly as you can draw from something that was just outside the waistband hanging off your belt. Now, Hammer has a slightly different way of doing this. Both ways work, and both ways look kind of cumbersome on video, but when you practice with it and just do it, both ways work. So the difference there is he flipped the flap up first and then reached for the gun. And again, both mechanisms work, both are safe. It's just that you just pick what works well for you with this particular holster. And you can see if he goes a little slower, you can see how it works. And again, the trigger's inaccessible. Your finger is right where it belongs. Your trigger finger is right where it belongs. So you get a nice, safe, reasonably quick draw. Well, this little holster, if you had it upright in a purse or a laptop bag or an attaché case, it'd be the same thing. You'd have it positioned where the way you typically carry the bag and the way you would swing the bag in to get the gun, that the gun is positioned correctly. Don't stick it in the briefcase like this. Don't put it in like that. I can't get the gun that way. Put it in and turn it in the orientation that would make sense. So in this case, I'm going to reach down into the bag, and when my hand bottoms out, I'm on the grip and I'm going to pull the gun out. And kind of the same thing. I'm going to show you that the other way. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm really positioned correctly. Now, the one thing this does lack is a retention strap. If I just turn it upside down, the gun can start to slide out, and with enough vibration, I could probably shake the gun out of it. So you'd want to use this in a position where it's going to be up, and something about the bag is going to retain it. This is a common option for a purse. And again, the same thing with a purse. If your purse is just one big open cavity that you dump everything in there, it's not going to work. You need to have a compartment of the purse where you can have this thing upright and away from all the other rabble that's in there, because getting things in the trigger can make things end very, very poorly. Some other options that have become popular are like these fanny pack style devices. And these are meant to not scream gun. This one's got some tactical loops on it, but that's not uncommon these days for runners and things like that, where you hang water bottles and stuff like that off it. Now, it's important to note, this is the gun compartment. So I don't want to hang anything off of these that is going to interfere with the gun compartment being used for its primary purpose to access a gun. If you're wanting to hang water bottles and stuff like that, use other places and mount points that the thing has. Most of these are designed to allow for some sort of quick access. And they're also designed, you'll see when I get this open, to retain the gun. So it often becomes very important, the position of the zippers. Where you put the zippers frequently matters on these types of things. And some do a better job than others. But in the case of this, these water bottle hangy looking loops to somebody that's looking at you are actually quick access loops. So the concept is, this thing is attached to my body, the zippers are properly positioned, and I just give it a yank. That's going to give me that quick access that I need. And then the gun's in here. And I've got a CAR PM9 stuffed in here. And this one has a holster that denies access to the trigger and kind of a felty looking feel on it that kind of holds the gun in place. And when this is closed up, there's a couple loops for magazines, but when this is closed up, it's going to keep that gun in place. It's going to keep it from, even if I shake it, the gun popping out and being loose in there. And this is important. This is where the gun is when I zip it up. When I unzip it in an emergency, this is where the gun needs to be. If this gun can get loose and move around, and when in an emergency situation, it's gotten itself like this, well, number one, it's pointed right up at me, that's bad. But number two, when I rip this open for fast access, it's just going to flop right out and land on the ground. So make sure that the choice of gun, the choice of thing, the way you use it, and this time I didn't put it in properly because I left the trigger exposed, this is kind of elastic. Now, here's the unfortunate situation. Some of these things that I've shown you, the Sneaky Peats, we've done reviews on the Sneaky Peats, the DeSantis, they're a very well-known holster company that makes pocket and off-body carry. So this thing is a DeSantis. This is a DeSantis. These things tend to be more of a niche market, and they tend to be made by just various off-brands, and they'll make them for a while and then they disappear. I've got this one I'm going to show you in another one, and these were just gun show finds. I don't know what the manufacturer of this is. If I wanted another one of these, I'd have to go to gun shows until I found it. Some of these things are hard to find. If you're looking for the mainstream stuff, the Sneaky Peats and the DeSantis, go to www.whatever, you're going to find it. If you're looking for these, you're probably going to find yourself wandering around gun stores and gun shows trying to stumble across something. I'm going to show you another one of these. This one's a little bit bulkier. It's a little bit more stand out as something bulky, but nothing about this screams gun. It's got the same types of things. It's got straps to connect to your body, and it's padded. And it's got the same, put the zippers in the corner, but it's got this cord hanging out. Which this cord hanging out, somebody's just going to think you neglected to tuck something in. You got a water bottle or something in there that you didn't tuck in. But really what this cord is the quick access. Again, I'm going to grip it firmly with my hand because it would be attached to your body, and I'm just going to rip. And when I rip, I'm actually unzipping the zippers. I'm not actually ripping anything. And in here I've got stuffed a PPQ. Now, this gun is probably on the outer edge of the capacity of this. If the gun were any bigger, it would be tough to get it past this. PPQ you can get out fairly easily. And yes, this does have retention, but keep in mind, any retention you activate, you're going to have to deactivate when it comes time to retrieve the gun. If you had a smaller gun that was not easily kept in place, you might use that retention. But this type of thing also works well if you're wanting to carry something other than a little pocket pistol. One of the other things that you need to kind of consider with any of this is retention. So inside the waistband, you might be in a ground fight. Somebody's trying to get your gun. But for the most part, there's nothing that attracts them to that part of your body until you've either tried to go for the gun and failed, or your shirt's come up and they've seen it, or it's really just become game on, in which case you're in a retention/draw battle. With these types of things, like this thing, if I'm walking down the street in the financial district with this, somebody might assume that there's money in here, or some sort of a negotiable whatever, or jewelry. I might be a jeweler. So I'm, to some extent, exposing something to somebody that might be attractive. It might be a tablet in here, maybe an iPad. It might be something I want to take from you. Now this has got this one heavy-duty, really solid heavy-duty strap. So when you've got a hold of it, and you're carrying it, don't carry it, on hanging it off your thumb. Put your hand around it. Grab it like you mean to hold on to it. Because you have to assume if somebody tries to take this from you, they're going to take it hard, hot, and fast. They're going to come up on you quick from behind, usually. Sometimes from the front, but usually from behind, and they're going to snag it. So if you've got a good grip on it, it's going to pull, and chances are pretty good it'll pop out of their grasp because they were expecting just to snatch and run. At this point, it's game on. So now you got to get in there and get your weapon. But if they take it from you, they've not only taken anything that you've got in there, they've taken your weapon, which they may just run off with. So now you get the pleasure of filing a police report to explain your gun's been stolen. Or they may actually, if they get in there while they're still in your presence, may choose to use it against you. These types of things generally have plastic buckles, the plastic quick release buckles, but most of them are designed to be somewhat difficult to operate unless it's intentional. Like this one here, you've got to push in these two snaps and this. So it's a 3-point. I gotta push these together and push this, and then I can release it. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but they're not going to do it fast. Another option would be, oh, I'll just grab a knife and cut the straps. Well, most of these use like a seatbelt material. Some of them even have auxiliary belt loops to make it more difficult for a snatch and grab. And the key to retaining anything off body, whether it's a purse, this attaché case, these things, these have a unique clip. The way the clip is designed to get up under the belt. So it's easy to put the belt under there. You just lift it up and snap the belt in. But it's actually rather difficult to pull them out. The only way you get these out is to reach up under it, pull this up, put your finger on the belt, and slide it off. It's kind of cumbersome till you get used to it. Don't worry, you can learn how to do it fairly easily, but it makes it rather difficult to just come up from behind you and do the infamous snatch and grab and run. What's going to end up happening is if they try to pull up on it, it's going to hang up on your belt and lift. If they try to go this way, it's a pretty robust mount. And yeah, they may damage it, they may actually even tear it, but it's very unlikely to just tear loose on that initial attack. The bigger ones that are designed to hold larger weapons have two belt clips. This thing, very, very difficult to remove unless you intend to, because you got to get them both at the same time, and that same thing I described of lift up under them and then using your fingers on the belt and then slide it off this way. So retention becomes important. The further you get from touching your skin, the easier it is for somebody to attempt to take it. So make sure whatever you choose has got some sort of auxiliary retention, and if it has it, don't forget to use it. Put these around your belt. Yeah, it's a little more inconvenient when you get to the gym. You need to pop them off, but you do need to use it. Now, in the furthest part of off-body carry, let me take a second here and clear off this table a little bit so that I can make some room, because this last piece is a little on the large side. I'm going to zip this up, clear away an assortment of guns, and I've got this. And you may have already seen this bag. It's a Vertex Sling 2.0. It looks like a bag that any college student would carry, or a laptop bag. Backpack laptop bags have become quite popular these days, so it's not uncommon to see something like this. There's nothing tactical about this, and that's kind of important for something that you're going to do off-body carry where you're visible, where you're going to be out in the public. If it looks tactical, it screams gun. There's no molly on here, none of that, which is good, because inside here I have an AK-47. This is a micro Draco, and this fits quite well in here. And if I put a magazine in it, a 30-round magazine, comes down to about here, it pretty much retains it right in that spot. As it's currently configured, it can move around a little bit, but that mag, it pretty much sits right put. And of course, an AK-47, other than the shock factor, without the big banana mag hanging off the bottom of it, really doesn't do a whole lot. This can work for heavier weapons, truck guns, especially if you're going into the woods, where you're going to be maybe encountering a four-legged thing that's got a little bit more horsepower than you could deal with one of these small pistols. A solution like this is less useful in urban off-body carry. By the time you can swing this bag around off your back, dig in there and get an AK-47 out of there, you probably could have pulled a pistol out of almost anywhere else. But it is an option, especially for vehicles and things like that, or in an environment, let's say you run a pawn shop, or something where you might have multiple attackers come in. Something like this could be under your desk. If somebody happened to get past you and saw it, they may or may not even take an interest in it. I don't really need to steal that guy's stinky gym clothes and his lunch. Unbeknownst to them, there's an AK-47 or an AR-15 pistol, even though most of those are a problem because the buffer tube comes further back. It comes back this way, and they become more of a problem. MAC-10, Uzi, whatever you want to put in here. I don't think you're going to use a bag like this for that. There's a lot of other smaller solutions for that. But this is probably the offest of off-body carries, but it has a purpose. So did I just show you the complete selection of every off-body or alternative carry that's available today? No. There's hundreds of things out there. You're going to stumble across all sorts of the best ideas ever. Some will survive, some won't. Here's what you need to consider on all of them. How am I going to get to the weapon? Bottom line. If I need to use it, how am I going to get to it? How am I going to retain the weapon? And how am I going to keep myself from pulling this trigger while I'm scrambling to get the weapon? So when you're evaluating an off-body solution, think of those things. If you can't really think of how you're going to do that, then you may not be looking at a good solution. You may be looking at somebody's best idea that works absolutely perfect except for reality. And also you may find with the various alternative solutions, for example, this is a truck gun. I kind of wasn't really seeing, Hammer had the idea of doing this, and I wasn't really seeing the logistics of it. And I was thinking of the various options that were available, what was already around. And so I kind of wasn't seeing it until we stumbled across this bag. This bag with the AK, with the magazine, is perfect. At that point, this becomes a viable solution. So sometimes the bag by itself, the gun by itself, a particular combination of a gun and a bag, right on. So you may have to kind of look around and consider what, not only how you're going to retain it and all that other kind of stuff, but what gun am I going to use? What gun do I have? Am I going to buy a gun for this? Do I have, let's say, a Glock 26 that's my favorite gun ever and I don't ever want to be parted from it, and whatever I carry, it's going to be that? Well, that may influence some of your decisions on what you might get. If your decision is, I want the most powerful gun that I can fit in whatever that thing is, well, then you're probably buying the gun for the bag. So you're going to kind of look around. All in all, you can do it. And if you get the right things, you take the right precautions and do the right practice, it'll work. If you can carry on the body in a classic inside the waistband, pocket carry, whatever, do that. It's going to be better than any of these solutions. But if the choice is I'm going out unarmed, I'm going to leave my gun at home, or I'm going to use one of these solutions, then please find a solution that works, because be armed. That is always the preferred situation. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Instagram. We're everywhere. And thank you.